When you're leading a team, where's the line between how much you will allow their personal life to impact their professional life? Because we are human beings, and there are things that are going to happen in our lives that have significant impact. It can be the death of someone they care about, it can be the loss of a relationship, it can be a health issue that's causing some concern, a variety of things where what's happening is they're moving through a very intense emotion and they're ill-equipped to navigate it skillfully. And because of it, it's bleeding into their responsibilities at work. And so when you're running that team, where is that line? How much grace do you give somebody before you need to have a conversation with them around how it's impacting performance? Now, this is a conversation that showed up for a client of mine recently where somebody was struggling quite a bit with what they were moving through personally. They had just ended a relationship that they were in for quite some time, and they were experiencing an intense amount of heartache around it. And she saw over the few weeks that this had happened how it was affecting not just her performance, but the energy that she had in the workspace, how it was impacting the people that she was working with, how it was impacting clients that were coming in. Everybody kind of noticed what was happening. And while there was this period of grace, because you understand, hey, you're going through a tough moment, we get that. There's also the element of, and there's a job that you're being paid to perform here. And there needs to be a minimum standard with how you show up for that. And so it's a very challenging conversation to navigate because on the human side, you want to show some compassion for what they're going through. But on the business side, you have a business and a team to take care of, and you need to make sure that they're able to show up and perform their responsibilities. And how you navigate that conversation is going to depend on a couple factors. One, it's going to be what is the culture that you have inside of your workplace? Is this a culture where the relationship that you have with the people on your team is a priority? And do they know that? Do they feel like this is a an environment where they are safe to bring their humanness into the workplace, where they can have conversations of vulnerability and transparency that are critical to the health of the relationship and the success of the business? Or is this a work environment where there is no personalization? There isn't conversation happening about personal life and what's going on with them, personally as a human being, and it's just strictly focused on work. And so understanding what is the culture and does this culture support somebody moving through something? And if so, how is that defined? If you were to ask the team member, what do you think the culture is here as it regards to this type of scenario? What do you think they would say? And that will give you a really strong inclination on meeting some expectations that have been established inside of this workplace. The other thing that you want to look at is what kind of leader do you want to be? Do you want to be the kind of leader that develops the skill set to be able to help them navigate some of these elements? Or do you want to have a hands-off approach where, I only talk about what's happening professionally. If there's something happening personally that's affecting your work here, then you need to seek somebody else out to have that conversation because you don't want to be the kind of leader that takes that on. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's simply a choice. It's to what degree do you want to have a relationship with the people on your team? And to what degree do you want to help them navigate both personal and professional situations that are happening? Now, as we navigate this conversation, let's just assume that we do want to have a healthy relationship with our team members. We do want to have some space for the humanness to be here. But we also don't want to be the person that's solving all their problems. Now, we can be a catalyst to help them find that solution, but not necessarily the solution itself. And so when you're engaging in a conversation like that, it's really important for us to understand what is happening on the other person's side. Can we see their experience through their lens? And if we can do that, it really creates the clarity that we need on how to approach this conversation from an energetic place, a tonality place, from choosing what words we want to say, and identifying what can we actually address here. So the way that could look is somebody's obviously going through something intense in their life, you see that's affecting performance, you can start with the invitation. Hey, I know you've been moving through some difficult things personally, and it's gotten to the point where I feel like I need to have a conversation with you around how that's impacting the way you're showing up here in the workplace. And I want to know, are you open to having that conversation now, or would you want to schedule a time for us to have that here in the next day or two? And so it's an invitation into the conversation, but also giving them the option in case they're just not resourced in that moment to have that conversation, another day or two to have it. So that gives them time to prepare while also taking care of your needs as well of having a little urgency for having this conversation. And once we do have that conversation and we enter into it, your tonality is going to be critical to navigating a very sensitive conversation. Because here's somebody that is emotionally fragile right now. They're already carrying the weight of what's happened to them personally, and now they're being met with what they're most likely perceiving as disappointment from you in them. And so now it's going to feel like they're just in this scenario where they can't win. And they're going to feel like they're letting everybody down. They're going to feel like a failure. They're struggling with whatever emotion that this personal situation is creating. And so it's a very intense thing to navigate. And if they're even able to navigate that just at the most minimal standard of skill, they're also going to be just a hair trigger response away from complete collapse or just complete dysregulation because everything is so sensitive and so tender. And so you think about if you were approaching a scared animal, you'd move slowly. You'd have a soft tone. You'd be speaking a little bit slower. You'd be pausing and paying attention to how the last thing you just did impacted the moment because every single second is creating almost a new moment that you have to navigate. And it's a very similar approach here. It's moving forward cautiously with curiosity and a heightened state of awareness. It's checking in more consistently than you would in a normal conversation and make sure that the other person's online. And we're doing this from a place of allowing the person to feel seen and understood while also acknowledging your need for them to know that regardless of what's happening in your personal life, there's still a standard here that needs to be met to perform your responsibilities. And we can figure out, and the purpose of this conversation is to figure out how do I support you in navigating both to make sure that you're getting what you need to heal what's happening on the personal side while also being able to kind of leave that at the door and step into this space and have an environment where you can refocus back on why you were here in the first place. And that's the conversation that you're trying to navigate. And so as you're doing it and you're going back and forth, you're asking questions. You're trying to get a really clear understanding of what they're experiencing. You're asking permission before you share what it is that you see and what you need to make sure that, again, they are capable of receiving whatever feedback that you're needing to create then. And then you're checking in with them to see how they're feeling as you reach a solution that's agreed upon. And so there's a difference there, right? So if it's, whatever solution you guys co-create by asking questions and repeating back what you heard and delivering what it is that you need, you know, uh, uh, the difference in a follow-up question of does that feel okay for you? You're almost always going to get a yes, right? Versus, so when you think about that being the procedure that we're going to move forward with, how does that feel for you? And or what kind of emotions are showing up as you feel into that? Are you feeling certain? Are you feeling skeptical? Are you feeling optimistic or discouraged right now? So a little caveat there. When you ask that question, what emotions are showing up for you right now? If they have the skill to check in with that and answer it, you'll get an answer. I'm feeling a little nervous because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do what you're asking. Okay, great. That gives us some insight. Make sure that we're creating a solution that will actually work and that they're not just giving you a yes because they don't want you to be disappointed or discouraged. But in the context of that, if you ask an open-ended question and they're unable to give you an answer because maybe they just haven't developed their thought process to that extent, or they're just caught up in the moment and they can't access clear thought, then you can give them more of a closed-ended response where you're giving them options, which is what I just gave in that example, right? Are you feeling nervous or certain? Are you feeling discouraged or optimistic about this and see if we can pinpoint what they're feeling to make sure that what just got agreed upon is something in their body still feels like a yes. Because that's the challenge that you face, especially with running team, is a lot of times your team will tell you yes when it's really a no, or there's confusion because they don't want to disappoint you, they don't want to look bad, and a lot of times they'll just take on that attitude of, uh, it might be a no or a maybe right now, but I'll just say yes and I'll figure it out after. And that's not necessarily the situation that you want to create or the experience that you want your team to have. And so how we navigate, these intensely emotional experience that people are going to have periodically is going to be critical to the trust and the buy-in that you get from your team. So I just wanted to give you some insight on that, on how to navigate some of those pieces. You invite somebody into a conversation, make sure that they're in a place where they're a resource to have it. And if not, like, give them a timeline that makes sense for you to have that conversation. So it's if I can't have it now, I do need to have it within 48 hours. I can give you that much flexibility, but do need to have this conversation so they can be prepared for it. And then just being in that energy of curiosity, making sure that your energy, your body language, your tone is inviting, it's welcoming, it feels like a place where they can share vulnerably or transparently. And repeating back what you heard, making sure that you're clear on things, checking in to see how the other person is feeling and getting clear on what that feeling is so you know exactly what their experience is so that you can navigate it skillfully. And then when you find that resolution, again, checking in that final time to make sure that it's an actual yes for them and not them just saying yes to please you. And then when you start to cultivate these conversations, especially in moments like that, the quality of communication that's going to be available for you with your team and really with anybody, it's going to be such a new and exciting experience for you. It's one of those things where it's like, I didn't even know the impact that skillful communication could have on my life until I had it. And now that I have it, it's not only do I wish I would have learned this so much earlier in life, but I want to give this gift to everybody I know. And the fastest way, the easiest way to do that is to just bring skillful communication to every conversation that you have. Show people what's possible. Give them a feeling they didn't know they could feel in conversations like that. And just witness over time the ripple effect that this skill has, not just on your life, but on the lives of everybody in your world. I hope this is enough for you to kind of sit with here for the week. And I look forward to talking to you again next week on another topic that I feel is going to really serve you in your path here to mastering skillful communication. I appreciate your time. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.